I think that it's important to be diverse when you have a company. I know that a lot of people disagree with that, and it's not something I'm going to compromise on. I think when you have a company, you have to have more than one product line. And there's never been a company that's had one product line and only one product line, because that company would fail. And so I think that you need to be somebody who are diverse while focused. It's funny because as I talk to people about our company, we have 3 products, and it's kind of crazy for a young company to have 3 products. But why we have 3 products, how we came into having 3 products, we created 2 of them. One of them we kind of inherited, and one of them is, I wouldn't call it back burner, but it's sort of in maintenance mode. You never know where your success will come from, and Microsoft is actually a great example of that. When Microsoft started in 1975, they didn't have DOS for another, I want to say 6 years or 7 years, which was their first major product. And Microsoft tried to make a mouse. Microsoft even had Microsoft Publishing, which was no joke. It was a book company. And if you were one of Bill Gates' investors, can you imagine in 1988 if you went to Bill Gates and said, I can't believe you started a book company. This is crazy. Was it 1988? Let me see when Microsoft Publishing began. It was earlier than that, actually. But what a distraction for a software company, right? What a weird distraction. Why would you start Microsoft Press? And their first book was about the Apple Macintosh. And this is 1984. So this is 9 years into Microsoft. They started a book company. And imagine if you went to Bill Gates and said, I'm selling all their stock because you started a book company and you're supposed to be focused. You're supposed to be focused on making software and you're starting a book company. And I'm pantomiming some dumb VC that says, oh, you got to focus or you'll lose. Well, I don't know, this looks like very unfocused. Like, why would Microsoft start a video game? Well, they also did a video game company. We'll talk about that in a minute. Why would they start a book company? The Microsoft mouse was also a huge failure. Microsoft had many years of failure in hardware. 1983, they came out with this mouse. $200, look at that. Looks like garbage now. It's probably worth $1,000 if you still have one. Look at how ugly that is. A Microsoft mouse. Can you imagine being an investor in this company and saying, you're making hardware? You're making these tchotchkes that some Chinese or Japanese company is making for you and you're selling them for 10% margin? How in the world is this a good idea? Right? And I think the answer is, in hindsight, the answers are always obvious. But at the time, when you're sitting, I played a little bit of organized sports as a kid, you're sitting in the pocket as the quarterback or the point guard with the basketball. It's not easy. Your vision of the field isn't always obvious what's going to work and what isn't. And you don't exactly know at the time, at that second, oh, he's wide open or whatever. And you're the one who has to make the decision. And it's not a perfect analogy because, you can take advice from other people, but if you want to try something that you think is going to be successful, you don't know what feedback you got and how good that feedback was. So some people probably said, yeah, this is a great idea. Do the mouse. And somebody might have said, no, this is an awful idea. Why are you expanding into hardware? And that person was right. The mouse was a bad idea. But if you look at Apple, they've made a lot of money in peripherals. So Apple would have been wrong if you told Apple, don't make your AirPods. Why would you make headphones? That's not your business. Well, they made headphones, and it worked. If you told Apple, don't make these other peripherals, well, you would have been wrong. So it's not like there's some playbook where you just run the playbook and it always works. So little Nam in my chat room is saying something exactly right. If you fail fast, you can do a lot of different things. If you fail slowly and dig over and over again into something, you may not succeed. Now, Microsoft sort of made it a priority to win in hardware and win in search, and they never gave up on either. They also made it a priority to win in video games. So Microsoft had a video game division way before Xbox. And as some of you may know, their biggest product for a long time was Flight Simulator. And the Flight Simulator certainly looks like a distraction. This is a very, very bizarre thing for a software company to sort of come out with. You're talking about 1981, 1982. This is a very bizarre, 40 years ago, Microsoft Flight Simulator. 40 years ago. This is before Windows. Wouldn't you as an investor or board member said, Mr. Gates, I don't know. Why would you be making video games? You make office productivity software. What are you doing? And you know what? They would have been right. Microsoft never made a lot of money from Flight Simulator. But the point is, if you know how to run a business, you can put 5 people on Flight Simulator or 10 people. You don't have to put the company on it. And there's a way to manage through these things that's not going to really cripple the company if you make a small bet on something like Flight Simulator. And my best guess is they probably did fairly well in Flight Simulator. I mean, you don't make 20 versions of a product if you fail at it. So I'm assuming that this was actually a pretty good P&L or return on invested capital for Microsoft over the long run. They just introduced another Flight Simulator version, so they certainly didn't mess it up. And the other funny thing is their interest in Flight Simulator and a couple other video games, I know their history very, very well. Microsoft put out lots of video games over the years before Xbox. They finally decided to make Xbox. And so maybe it was these little experiments that allowed them to learn the space and then slowly introduce a major product like Xbox, which has done very, very well. So sometimes you need to experiment. Microsoft also tried media, so they had publishing, but then, as you all know, they did MSNBC, which was an attempt to do media. They did the MSN network. They did, of course, the ISP, and all of those things were kind of very not so great, but there was an attempt to sort of do it all. When they saw AOL Time Warner, they kind of felt like they needed to do something similar with that AOL to what AOL was doing. So many different, things to think about and look at, but I think it's important to have a diverse company that doesn't just rely on one product, even though we want all of our products to be as big as possible. Some products aren't destined to be that big. The molecular energetics product that we put out is never going to be a major product because it's just not a big product for anyone. So it's not going to be that big of a product for us, but our financial product, that could be a really big product. This product I just talked about, AI physician assistant, could be a very, very big product. So there's a lot of, you just have to sort of frame everything, the right way. What do y'all want to do? Talk about Bitcoin, play chess,